Hello and welcome everyone. My name is Slegaitis-Smith, and if you are old hat, welcome back. If you're brand new, welcome you. Today is going to be our last video in the editing series, at least for now, where we are going to be talking about a very tactile method for doing some developmental edits. So if you're in the developmental edit stage, which is you just got finished with your first round of drafting and now you're ready to cut out what you don't need, add in things you do, and fix any plot holes that might have arisen as you were writing along, today's method is a method for you to try, especially if you're someone who benefits from using tactile methods, things that allow you to physically interact with whatever it is that you are working on. So today's method, you can either use sticky notes or note cards for. I tend to like to use sticky notes because they don't slide around on you when you're doing the tactile part of it, but you can really use either one you're comfortable with, and you can go through all sorts of different levels of color coding and such. So this is all you're gonna really need to see of my face for this video. So let's just go and pop into creating our actual editing process. So here are our basic tools for this editing style. You either need sticky notes or note cards or some combination of the two. You don't have to have colors, but I am someone who goes to the nth degree for color coding. So I like using multiple colors if possible of sticky notes and of note cards, depending on which one I use. I'll do a few of each. Just so you can see what it looks like, but you really only need to stick with one or the other. And then, once again, for writing on these, you can either do extra level color coding and you can have different colors for different things, or you can just write in pencil or black ink or whatever you're more comfortable with. It's up to you. There is much freedom and creativity in this method. It's one of the reasons why I do like it. So essentially what we are going to be doing is we are going to be going through and creating the major plot points of our book. For the start, what you want to do is just go through the plot points by memory. Don't even look at your work yet. Just create one sticky note or one note card for every single scene or major plot point that you can think of. After you've done that blind without looking at your novel, that's when you are going to go back to your work and you are going to look at what is in your story that you left out when you were just blindly putting stuff down onto the note cards and sticky notes. You are going to want to make a mark on any notes that you add when you go back and look through your novel, because if you forgot a major plot point, it might have not actually been that major and you might want to consider removing it, so it acts as like a little extra editing for the process of the novel. For doing this, I'm just going to go ahead and make a bunch of these off camera so that we don't have to waste time on that, and I will come back to you once I have a bunch of stuff created so I can show you what we're doing with these. Once you have finished making your cards and sticky notes or sticky notes, your next step is to lay them all out on the floor in the order that they appear in your novel. Don't worry, I'll get closer so you can see what's going on. The whole point of this is that you are literally going to walk through your novel. You are going to go from the first step to the next one, and what you're going to be assessing as you get to each point in your story is you are going to be deciding the value of spending time in that place. Is this someplace you actually want to bring your reader to? Is this a place you actually want to be? Are you spending too much time there? I'm trying to not step on that sticky note. I guess I should place them out further. But you are literally going to spend time walking through the entirety of your novel until you get to the very end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what each of the parts of my novel are, to show you how I made use of the sticky notes and the note cards and the color coding that I did in this one. So this is my first starting point. And all I have on the sticky notes is introducing the main characters. And it's not bad to go kind of vague on these notes because essentially you know what's going on. This isn't like if you were trying to use like the sticky note method for planning, which I've talked about in the past as well. You want to be more detailed on planning sticky notes because you're coming up with the idea. At this point, you already have the idea, you have the information. You're just making sure that everything actually flows and fits together. So I know what introducing the MCs means for my novel, and you would know what it is for yours. Then over here, I have a sticky note with a little star in the corner. It says the Trium, which once again means something to me, but not to you because you don't know what's in my novel. But essentially, this was a scene that has quite significant page time. Like, this scene is at least 6 pages of my work in progress, and I didn't mention it when I was creating these note cards and sticky notes. So that is something that I need to reevaluate. Do I actually need to spend so much time there? Is it worth the page time that I'm giving it? Then after that, we have some yellow sticky notes, which I used for backstory building. This is an epic fantasy that I'm writing, so there's always going to be a space for backstory, for lore, and then I have this thing called mundane. When you're creating an epic fantasy, there is like a lot of background information that you don't necessarily want to be talking about all the time. So the mundane is what's actually happening, and the lore and backstory part are things that get woven in. So you're not just straight up info dumping there, or at least I'm trying to not straight up info dump, but these are the parts that are happening in this scene. So for my yellow cards, it's always dealing with how I'm weaving in that backstory of characters with lore with some sort of mundane task. Then over here I have my first pink card, and it is our first conflict. And here is the initial conflict where there is a new character that arrives, which disrupts the norm for my characters. Which having this new person arrive is something that is hugely disruptive for them, even though it doesn't seem like it should be. It would make more sense if you were reading the novel. But this is not about my novel, it's about the method, so I'm not trying to go in on that right now. So there's my initial conflict. So all the major conflicts that I have for my story, the major ones, are on pink cards. Then I have my first orange card, which is where they are either accepting or rejecting the call to action that they have received, meaning that when that character arrived and disrupted the norm, they now have to do something about it. What did they do about it? In this case, they end up leaving their comfort zone and going to a new place because there is war on the horizon, friends. So that is how they reacted to this particular conflict, to this particular call to action, and that will happen again later. Then I have another sticky note with a star. I had, in my initial draft for this story, had random chapters where I did stuff from the antagonist's point of view, and I never brought that up when I was working on writing out these sticky notes. So now I'm wondering how much value there is in having this other point of view, because like sometimes when you give the antagonist point of view it's really useful, and other times it's just like, why did you even bother? So that gives me something else that I need to think about that I might not have thought about without doing this kind of method. Then I have more backstory we're going through, and then our next major conflict where our characters have a crisis of faith. There's a huge theme of faith in this story. So the fact that the characters have this crisis of faith is huge. Essentially, my main characters are like warrior priests, for lack of a better way of describing it. And so this is their first time that they've ever actually been in conflict, and they end up having to kill someone because that happens when you're in conflict like this particular kind of conflict. And so now they have to try to reconcile their faith with what they've had to do, which is by their religion, like against the rules. So, huge thing. And then, as part of dealing with that, we get a little bit more backstory, lore, and some mundane. Where in this case, there is this particular ritual that they do for forgiveness, and now they have to evaluate, like, does this ritual actually mean anything to them? And then, of course, because we have this huge crisis of faith, And then there is another opportunity to either accept or reject the journey that they are on. So we got another card, an orange card, leading to our main climactic battle, which is a 3-day battle that they have to go through. So there's a lot of writing in this one little pink card. And then we have the resolution of the novel. Sorry for covering the camera for a second there. We have the resolution of the novel where I discuss the wins that happened in the end, the losses, and set up for book 2 because this book is supposed to be in a series. So these are all things that you would want to be assessing at the resolution. What are your character winning? What are they losing? And are you trying to set up for anything else? So with that, I'm able to walk forward and back through my novel and really assess all the major points and whether or not I am finding holes in the story or other things like that. So the reason why this is more tactile is because of the fact that you're able to actually walk through these, and then you're actually able to like shift them around and move them if necessary, because maybe some scene would work better somewhere else. And you can have a small number of note cards, you can have a lot of note cards. There's a lot of freedom in this method, so I think that you will find this one really useful. I really encourage you to give it a try. At the very least, it can be fun and it can help you to think a little bit about your novel. Thank you for watching. I hope that you had fun attempting this developmental edit style, and I hope you had a great time looking through this editing series with me. Our next video is going to be finishing off our first gaming set, which is with the game JSRF. We'll see how that goes, and we still have some other projects coming down the line to look forward to. So I hope that you enjoy those. If you do, consider hitting the subscribe button. If you like this video, give us a like, please. And that is going to be it for us today. I'll see you in the next one.